Okay, so have you heard about this? It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually happening right now.
Yeah.
A paralyzed man is controlling a computer
It's pretty amazing.
with his thoughts.
Yeah.
It's all thanks to this company called Neuralink,
Right. Neuralink
and we're
and
going to really unpack this whole thing.
yeah, I think it's worth taking a closer look because there's a lot of layers to this.
Exactly.
We've been talking about the potential of this type of technology for a while, and now
Okay.
we're seeing it
We're seeing it actually happening
actually working in a human.
in a human being.
Yeah. So what does it all mean? What are the long-term implications?
Right. And for our listeners out there, I mean, you're probably thinking, okay, I saw the headlines, but what's the real deal?
Right.
And that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to break it all down.
Yeah.
So you can really understand what this breakthrough actually means.
Exactly.
So first, the big news, right? Neuralink,
Yeah.
Elon Musk's company, as I mentioned. They announced that their first human patient with their brain implant
Mm-hmm.
can now control a computer cursor just with his thoughts,
Just by thinking.
just by thinking.
I mean, imagine that.
It's insane.
You can't use your hands.
Yeah.
You have limited physical movement,
Right.
and yet you can interact
With the digital world.
with the digital world
Yeah.
just through your thought.
And even Musk himself, he confirmed it on X, formerly Twitter.
Right.
He said, quote, the patient is able to move a mouse around the screen
Yeah.
using just his thoughts.
Wow. So
It's amazing.
it's more than just moving a mouse. I mean, it's the potential it represents.
Exactly.
It's like, we've talked about the brain being this incredibly complex organ
Right.
with billions of neurons firing electrical signals. And
Yeah.
what Neuralink is doing is essentially tapping into those signals.
Mapping into them.
Yeah, like eavesdropping on our thoughts in a way.
So how does that even work?
Right. So you hear these words like, brain-machine interface or BMI,
Yeah.
and it sounds really futuristic.
Very sci-fi.
But the basic idea is to create a connection between the brain and a computer.
Okay.
So Neuralink's case, they have this tiny chip
Hyatt.
surgically implanted into the brain.
Okay. And on this chip
And on this chip,
are these electrodes. Right.
yes, electrodes. And these electrodes are so small.
How small are we talking?
We're talking micrometer thin, like thinner than a human hair.
Wow.
And they're designed to detect the electrical signals that are produced by the neurons in the brain.
Okay, so it's kind of like if our thoughts are like little electrical impulses.
Right.
The electrodes are picking up on those impulses.
Exactly, and transmitting them to a computer.
So can you give us like an analogy to help picture this?
Sure, imagine you're thinking about reaching for a glass of water.
Okay.
Your brain sends a command to your arm and hand muscles to make that movement.
Right.
Now that command is a pattern of electrical activity.
Right.
The Neuralink chip detects this pattern and sends it to a computer, which is programmed to understand what that pattern means.
Okay.
So the computer might say, oh, this pattern means move the cursor to the right.
Okay.
And so it moves the cursor on the screen.
And that's just with the power of thought.
Exactly.
So it's not just about thought control, right? It's about helping people with paralysis or other conditions.
That's the real promise of this technology.
Yeah.
Imagine someone with a spinal cord injury or ALS.
Right.
They've lost the ability to move or communicate in conventional ways.
Yeah.
This technology could give them a new way to interact with the world.
So they could control a computer, maybe even a prosthetic limb.
Exactly, even control a wheelchair.
It's huge.
It's potentially life-changing.
And right now it's just a cursor, but it sounds like there's so much more that they're working on.
Oh, absolutely.
What's next?
So they're talking about enabling things like keyboard use.
Okay.
So people could actually type out messages
Just with their thoughts.
just with their thoughts.
Wow.
And even control other devices in their environment.
Like smart home devices.
Exactly, like lights, temperature, all sorts of things.
It's mind-blowing.
And some even speculate about things like gaming.
Gaming.
Yeah, imagine playing video games just by thinking about the moves.
That's wild. Okay, so we're talking about putting chips in people's brains.
Yeah,
That obviously raises some concerns.
sure.
It's not just about the cool factor.
Of course, though.
We have to talk about the ethics,
Absolutely. It's a very complex issue
the safety.
and a very important one.
Yeah. What are some of the things people are talking about?
Well, first and foremost is the safety of the implant itself.
Right.
Is it safe to have this device in your brain long term? What are the potential risks?
Right. And also, informed consent.
Absolutely. People need to fully understand the risks and benefits before agreeing to have this procedure.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the bigger picture stuff.
Right. Like, what does it mean for our privacy?
Yeah. If a device can read our thoughts.
Exactly. Could it be used to manipulate us or control us in some way?
It's kind of scary if you think about it.
Like, definitely a valid concern.
Yeah. So how does Neuralink fit into the bigger picture of brain interface technology?
Well, brain interfaces aren't exactly new.
Right.
I mean, researchers have been working on this for decades.
Right.
But what Neuralink is doing is pushing the boundaries in a few key areas.
What do you mean?
Well, they're really focused on miniaturization,
Okay.
making the device as small and unobtrusive as possible.
Right.
They're also emphasizing wireless connectivity.
So no wires sticking out of your head.
Exactly. It's much more practical and comfortable for the user. And perhaps most importantly, they're thinking about scalability.
What does that mean?
It means they want to make this technology widely available.
So not just for research.
Right. They want to bring it to the masses.
Okay, but with that ambition comes a lot of scrutiny.
Right. Absolutely. The scientific community is watching very closely. They want to see data. They want to see evidence that this technology is safe and effective.
And there are also the ethical considerations we talked about.
Right. We need to have a societal conversation about the implications of this technology.
So it's not just about moving a cursor, right?
Right.
Elon Musk has talked about this vision of like merging humans with AI.
Yeah, the whole symbiosis with AI idea.
That's a pretty bold vision.
It's definitely ambitious.
Yeah. What else has he said?
Well, he's talked about restoring full body movement for paralyzed individuals.
So people could walk again.
Potentially, yeah.
Wow.
And he's even talked about things like telepathy, being able to communicate directly with other minds.
That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, but who knows what the future holds?
Right. So this first successful implant is really just the beginning.
Yeah, it's a proof of concept.
It shows that it's possible.
Right, and that's huge.
So what are the next steps? What can we expect to see in the near future?
Well, I think we'll see more clinical trials with more patients testing the device, gathering data,
Right.
and then they'll continue to refine the technology, hopefully enable more complex actions.
Beyond just the cursor.
Exactly. And ultimately, they want to make this technology widely available
Yeah.
so that people with paralysis or other disabilities can regain independence and freedom.
It's pretty incredible when you think about what this could mean for people.
It really is.
I mean, imagine not being able to move,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you can control a computer with your mind.
It's like regaining a part of yourself.
It's like a whole new world opening up.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the practical stuff.
Yeah.
It's about dignity.
Absolutely.
It's about hope.
It's about empowerment.
Yeah, it's about having control over your life.
And being able to connect with the world in a new way.
So it's not just about moving a cursor. It's about something much bigger.
It's about the potential of technology to enhance human capabilities,
To push the boundaries of what's possible.
to help people overcome challenges.
And to ultimately live richer, fuller lives.
It's really quite profound.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what's next? Where will this technology take us?
That's the big question.
What will the world look like in 10 years, 20 years?
It's exciting to think about.
It is exciting and a little bit scary too.
Sure, but I think it's important to have these conversations now
Yeah.
as the technology is developing.
To make sure we're using it responsibly.
Exactly, to ensure it benefits humanity as a whole.
So for our listeners out there, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
We've talked about the brain controlling a computer, but what if our thoughts could one day control even more?
Interesting.
What if we could move objects with our minds or communicate telepathically?
It's mind-boggling.
It is, and it's not as far-fetched as it sounds.
Right. The line between science fiction and reality is getting blurrier all the time.
So I encourage you to keep exploring this topic, to stay informed, and to think about the possibilities, both positive and negative.
Yeah, it's a conversation that's just beginning.
Exactly, and it's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive,
It's been a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
See you then.